Welcome to Rock the World with Kay and Michelle. We explore stories of courage, resilience, and innovation, highlighting both the similarities and diverse experiences that unite us all. The experiences we discuss on this show are for educational purposes only. Please do not substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Before we begin, I respectfully request that if you witness any pauses during this show, please continue watching. I'm composing a spontaneous comment or question, someone's processing their thoughts, in addition to repeating something that was unintelligible or misunderstood. It is natural discourse, and we can choose not to say anything while this is occurring. What have you been up to? Is Graham back at school?
Graham, yes, Graham is my son. He graduates from ASU this May. And I think I'm already getting teary-eyed. But anyway, yes, he's back at school. His last semester, he's pulling off 18 credits plus his group events that he does. I think he's busier than I am.
I have been chilling before college starts Monday. I filmed 2 podcasts last week and scheduled several.
That's amazing. Yeah, I run the movement lesson clinic, and we have clients right now in from China and Canada. I have just another one who just moved here. She starts today. I've seen her before for lessons, but they moved to Arizona. Arizona is a very good state for uh services for any kind of special needs. I think it's number one. And so a lot of people do end up coming in not only for movement lesson, but for all of what Arizona could offer. Yeah.
Today, our real and rich conversation is about legal guardianship for people with special needs. While I don't have a guardian, Michelle has parental guardianship for her son, Graham.
Right. So my son Graham is 22. And yes, I mentioned he's graduating ASU. A lot of people think because he's got a GPA of 3.75, he's going to be majoring or he's going to be getting degrees in political science, urban planning. He has a minor in Russian of all things. He's Phi Beta Kappa, etc. And again, these aren't brags. We've both worked really hard, considering he was once diagnosed as mentally retarded, which was a diagnosis when he was 4. Don't get upset. It's now cognitive impairment, but this is his past. But I when he was diagnosed as you know, again, it's his 4 at 4, his goal was to say mom and to walk. We open, please. We picked 20 words that my son would be able to say. And at that point, they really threw him under the bus as far as going from preschool to kindergarten kind of thing. And that's where I said, that's it. I'm taking over. I took over for his therapies. And I got very aggressive because my son did walk and talk before he got sick. I I still think I didn't deal with him not being able to walk or talk. Now, fast forward, people see him that he walks and talks and he's graduating with all these accolades. I get it, and I couldn't be prouder. But if my son doesn't take his medicine, he'll die. He has no immune system to bacteria. He's had 30 surgeries and so forth. I don't feel my son was ready to go into the world and self-advocate. And also, too, like with his surgeries and for his meds, at 18, he could say, I don't want to take them. I'm done with this. Well, I don't think he understands what it would do to his life. And also, too,
It's not black and white.
it's not black and white, but for him, life is. So there's no gray. And so a lot of people see him as, oh, but he walks and talks. What are you worried about? Well, I'm still worried about that my son's going to die. I mean, at any moment, if the meds change or his insurance change, I can't get it. My son goes, in seconds, because he's got the infection in his head that he'll never get rid of, and it just comes out like a full roar. but you don't need it.
Even my seizure medication.
Mm.
Right, but you understand why you need to take it.
Mm. Mm.
I am a college student, avid horseback rider, office manager, communication assistant, co-author, and the host of 3 successful talk shows, all facilitated through her iPad as a speaking device. I am an independent self-advocate adult needing 24/7 physical care. I don't need a guardian because I am an adult and have the capacity to make medical decisions. I've the ability of an individual to understand the choices presented, to appreciate the implications of choosing one alternative or another, and to make and communicate a decision.
Right. And that's amazing. And I think a lot of people are in that situation and then that's okay. But I can't risk turning back like with my son when he says he doesn't want to do something that would affect, let's say, his life. And at that point, then I'm just a mom. I mean, I have, once a child turns 18, that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I am a parent, but your legal representation goes away.
What is legal guardianship for individuals with special needs?
So legal guardianship with individual special means that at the age of 18, you don't want to wait longer because the courts might decide, let's say if I wanted to take legal rights from you, again, that's what that means. I am taking your legal rights away. So your legal rights means that you cannot sign anything. So, medical information or this, when they say, do you understand? I'm saying right now, I don't believe my son understands that he could be financially responsible for something or that kind of thing. So, secondly, what it means is that he can't drive, which is fine. He doesn't want to drive. I don't think he's capable of it. And so I don't think that will ever be a milestone, but it's fine. We have Uber. And then it also means that he can't vote. So that's a hard one taking. But if you're saying someone doesn't have the capacity to make proper decisions that affect their lives, then you can't vote.
Can he book transportation?
Yes, he really is very good about managing his stuff. I do not have to be on campus with him. He does live alone at the moment. But does that mean just because he lives alone, if I wasn't here, let's say, can he find his own apartment, rent it, get renter's insurance, manage his bills, and all of that? I
Mm.
don't believe that that's the case. Like he's a rat in a maze. He knows to go to these classes. Last year they had a situation where you couldn't go through the front doors of his building. That threw him off.
Mm.
Mom, why does this have to happen? Why does this have to happen? This is where if a teacher's still not there, I get a text saying so and so didn't show up. So he's used to if you tell him what to do, he'll do it. I don't have to say do your homework. I don't have to say get good grades.
Routine.
Routine, absolutely. But if it's out of the routine, like if there's a service request or something like that, something breaks. Perfect example, he was riding his bike and there was yard waste on the sidewalk and he did about $250 damage to his bike. He just rode through it. I'm like, Graham, why did you go over the branches? And he goes, well, it wasn't supposed to be there. Yeah, but it was. So those are the things, even though he's a straight A student that can speak Russian, he can't comprehend going around the wood branches or moving them.
Was it a hard decision to make?
It was a hard decision to make because in my way, I was giving my child one more diagnosis, which means he couldn't be an adult. But honestly, I don't know many 18-year-olds really can be full adults. I know they say legally you can get married and all of that and have kids. I understand that, but still, if let's say your child was 19, 20 and sick with COVID, I don't think parents realize, that they're in the hospital, maybe ventilated. Who's representing them? You lose those rights when they turn 18 of representation.
Did you need update diagnosis?
Yes, yes. I can't just go up to anybody and say, I'm taking away your guardianship. There is quite a process that you're going through, but my main concern was my son's medical reasoning. Can he order his meds? Can he administer his IVs? Can he set up his doctor's appointments and all of those kind of things? This is where he has anxieties, and doesn't understand that if he doesn't do things a certain way, or if his meds don't ship for whatever reason, who's doing, again, the troubleshooting, those kind of things. He's there to go to college.
Did you always feel like you would have needed this?
I didn't know it existed. This is what I love about podcasts and being out there doing movement lesson on YouTube. A lot of people think that movement lesson is all about getting a movement lesson, but really, I want movement lesson to me to be like Khan Academy. If you have special needs or movement disorders or whatever you want to talk about it, developmental concerns, you come like on like the internet for it. And so I really love that you and I are talking so people also can see. Maybe your mom thought, on the opposite hand, you should have had a been guardianship your whole life, kind of thing, and couldn't be prouder that that conversation never came into play with you. So
Just
it,
like this podcast.
yeah, you know, and we're here to talk about just the changes in life, but also the challenges in life. And sometimes they're short term, and sometimes they're welcome to life. It just changed.
Did his father always disagree?
No, his father was for it. We were both for it, but now his father disagrees. And but I am overriding that. He thinks I'm trying to make Graham disabled, which I didn't start the process. But I'm just trying to make sure my son was protected. The original decision was we do this and let's see how college goes. After college, we can reflect again where he's at.
Are you worried that either Graham, his father, or other family members would file to change it spontaneously?
It would be very difficult. The way guardianship is set up, actually, the state now owns Graham. The state has decided that Graham needs protection. So I have to, every year, I have to refile to show that I'm protecting Graham. I'm not filing to make Graham on to continue his guardianship. I'm really filing that I'm protecting him. If I want to back out, I can back out as his protector, and we will find another because there's two guardians that overlook in case something were to happen to me. But the state now protects him, and that's what's great because if something happens to me, that's also where we as a family get a protection. The state is making sure Graham is being looked after.
Is it always that way?
I know all I know is state of Arizona. It should be that way in every state, but as I've learned, every state does do special needs differently. There are state laws. Every state decides which state how they decide to spend their Article 19 money from the government, and then there's government laws that people might be more familiar with, like Social Security. It is easier to get Social Security if you're under parental guardianship because you are already showing or proving your case that your child is, let's say, incapacitated. Graham is not incapacitated to the point where he needs Social Security, though, or would qualify.
What happens if he moves?
Then first of all, we have to go through the guardianship. Is he allowed to move out of state of Arizona? Would they approve that? Because again, that goes under decision making. Again, when he has to file rent an apartment, he has to sign for it. Is he capable of saying, "Oh yeah, I don't care, my rent's $4,000." Well, how are you gonna pay for it, Graham? I don't know. You know, you know what I mean? So again, that's where that protects him. And that's something we're going to have to look after because I don't know if he'll be working for
Makes
the Secret
sense.
Service. Yeah, it makes sense to protect him. Again, you might feel that you're okay advocating for yourself, but again, if something were to happen to your parents, the question has to be asked, which you are. I'm not questioning your decision making. Again, who's going to take care of you? Suddenly, short term, long term, what's going to happen?
Does Graham understand it?
Yes, yes. Actually, he originally, when it happened, a lawyer comes from the state of Arizona and goes over his rights and asks him question. But it's actually a private interview. If he's capable of making certain decisions, the lawyer will present to the court that they're in agreement with us. And then we had to go before the judge, and the judge actually talked to Graham to make sure that, we were doing this not in haste, but in his best decision.
Did you have to practice?
Oh, no, 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 no. It was a very, very easy process. I was first interviewed by my lawyer because he wasn't going to file papers if I wasn't in his best interest. And then we had to go to the psychologist. In his case, you can go to a doctor, let's say in your case, or a case, let's say for cerebral palsy, you would have to have a neurological review that the child has incapacity for due to cognitive damage, let's say, and physical representation. In our case, we went to a psychologist for his autism diagnosis, but she breaks it down a lot farther with his decision making, and his life skills and where he's at. And it shows to his progress as well as where his weaknesses are. And then from there, we filed, and then again, Graham got the lawyer, and then the judge came in to decide all this. So once a year now, I have to file.
Is autism his primary disability?
Autism is, see, now that's a big question. It's his primary disability for the state. People have to realize that most states' laws for disabilities were written probably in 1934. So if your child has CDKL5, let's say, is the system set up for it? Most likely no. But he's autoimmune failure, he's autistic, and then he has like a decision-making disorder. But again, you're not going to get services for decision-making disorder, but it would be under consideration for, let's say, for parental guardianship.
What do you usually say on the phone?
I don't say much. It just says where he's lived the past year, and who's been living with.
What do you usually say for his doctors on the phone?
That's where I don't come into play. His doctor actually fills out way more of the paperwork than I do. So they are his diagnosis.
I mean, like I am calling for Graham who has.
Um, When I'm working with that, I'm very careful with introducing Graham as being special needs. I really I when I say that I have an autistic child, it's for your visual description, but I don't consider my son personally or any of my clients is I have an autistic kid. I have a child named Graham. He happens to have autism, but his eyes are also blue, kind of.
Oh,
I really don't Graham really taught me to see possibilities in everyone versus limitations. So this is what's hard, say, about doing parental guardianship, because I'm actually declaring a certain spot in his life, and that's not how I like to work. You know, life moves, but everything can always get better, but people wait for it to get worse.
I find your perspective on that interesting.
No, it's really important to honor. I mean, even our we can say our typical kids, which I hate to say that too. Like, I don't introduce my one child as like he's the one with the messy room all the time, like or something like
oh,
where
oh.
he's my D student, which my kids aren't. They're both brilliant, but at the same time too, I also don't say these are my brilliant kids. You know, they're capable of doing so much, but there was an interesting doctor, and I cannot remember the doctor's name. And they asked him, what did he think about the new diagnosis of schizophrenia? Will he diagnose any of his clients with it? And he goes, they say it's uncurable. Why would I diagnose my clients with an uncurable diagnosis? A 2-year-old doesn't drive a car, maybe a 22-year-old doesn't drive a car. That's okay. But to look at snippets in people's lives and just say this is what's going to happen, you got to be careful with that. It's not the way it should be. And it could be so much more. That's why I'm about optimal development.
How did you find a lawyer?
The lawyer process was just process of connections. I have a special needs trust in the state of Arizona. It's the money is Graham. So even at 2 years old, Graham couldn't be worth more than $2,000 for him to have the insurance part of it.
Yeah.
And he still has financial limitations. That's what I have to work out now about him getting a job. Um, to keep his insurance because again, medically, this is where my son is at. This is all my son's infections. You can see it's in his bones. So even with his medicine,
Oh,
he'll never, yeah, the black is bad. And so it's in the bones. And so people see him as okay, but he's not. He's okay because his meds work at the moment.
yeah.
Um, which from seizures, they're either working or
Yeah.
not. But so the special needs trust that was set up for my son, which is very important. People don't think about their wills. He recommended my lawyer. My lawyer's $300 a year. It's not a deal breaker. For some, yes, I get it that would be a lot of money, but it really, the protection is there. It is very difficult to say they're 18, 19, 20, and now to say that they're not capable, maybe because they're getting out of school or, because again, school for undergraduate is to 21 if you can't graduate like when you're 18, like they extend it. And a lot of people think that makes the parental guardianship extend, but they have to realize with the legality of adulthood. And John Martin is a wonderful lawyer that took care of us and takes care of us every year.
Why is a lawyer needed if you are required to have documents from physicians?
Actually, I'm sure you could probably do it by yourself, but it's just easy for them. They just know how to file it with the courts. They send it over. I'm sure the courts aren't going to question it because it's from a law firm versus from a parent. But I basically have to state where I live, that I take care of Graham, that I'm willing to continue the guardianship. and then I have to have a psychology review. I'm surprised they don't actually list for a list of doctors. They don't, it's quite easy once it's in process that I don't have to do it.
Oh.
So
Talk about responsibilities of a legal guardian.
responsibilities of a legal guardian basically means I'm still a mom. I make the doctor's appointments, I make sure his meds are there, I make sure the bills are paid. He just shows up and goes to college, but he doesn't know, understand or cares, whichever is comes first, who's paying the bills. College is there. Well, someone said, "Why are you going to college?" He's like, "Because I was told to." Like, um, and now we have to look for a job for him, and I have to work out vocational. Does someone need to go with him? With
Yeah.
the, so yeah, mom stuff.
What are challenges and ethical considerations?
Again, because I don't like to say, "Hi, this is my autistic kid," but Graham is not going to be the person to say, "Hey, how are you? How was that Chiefs game this weekend? Woohoo! Let's go out." He's going to show up. He's going to be your best employer. But at the interview process, are they going to be like, "What's up with this kid?" So that's where I'm looking at now for like vocational rehab. Does someone need to present with him saying, "Hi, this is Graham. He happens to have these things. Don't worry about it. They're not going to infect his employment. If anything, there's going to make him, more optimal." But, these are, I don't know. Like I haven't hired someone in a long time, much less, does he need that introduction of being special needs, or am I thinking too much as a parent? I don't know. So there's new challenges every day of how to do it, because when people say, "Well, why is he getting Arizona disability? He's fine. He's going to college. Look at him. There's nothing wrong with him." It's none of your
No.
business. You know.
You find it annoying to convey at any appointment or call?
No, but I do find it annoying when you're wasting my son's time. My son's like autoimmune failure is polysaccharide AB deficient. I had one doctor like, "How do you spell it? And did you actually get a diagnosis for this?" I'm like, "It's so rare. There's no group on Facebook. Like, I didn't make this up. Like, it's not a Google diagnosis." Or when they look straight at him, "Oh, your son probably won't be walking much longer." Well, what evaluations did you just give for me? He's a black. Things like that. That what what it's like when they talk about you like you're not in the room, and like
I always let my mother come into appointments as she's my primary caregiver. I would
oh,
allow the other family members in my household to do the same thing if necessary. I do understand that I have the right to go into appointments independently using assistive technology and/or an interpreter, but I don't see why I would choose to do so.
I
My
don't think
family is with me 24/7, and that would add an additional step after the appointment that doesn't make sense to me to recommunicate the next steps to them. Even though mom is allowed to make phone calls for me, my vocalizations are always required to prove that I give my consent to them to talk to mom. As you can imagine, I do as much as electronic health record as possible to prevent the additional unnecessary hoops of explaining our situation. I find it easier, not because I don't want my family to know.
we should be using our family. We should be using we aren't meant to be alone, especially with major considerations. And especially when it does affect your mother and your father and, whoever is your immediate family in your household. And they're there to help you. They're not to be make you more disabled. That's not why we have,
No.
a village. And
Here are two examples of self-advocacy last week were small. Choosing what vaccinations I wanted and made sure that doing it the same day as fasting blood work was okay. Making sure a lab was ordered from another specialty, which it wasn't, but the provider I was with was able to order it.
No, that's great. And when you have show up in numbers, I think people listen more. If you're by yourself, for me going in, they tend to just fluff it off sometimes. I shouldn't say everybody, but there is something to be said about being in numbers or being in pairs, groups.
It was a simple appointment.
Because you were prepared.
It was a simple appointment, but doesn't matter.
You never know. People don't understand what would be a simple appointment for most people. We have to prepare. We have to make sure, oh, all the paperwork is in, maybe it's the insurance, the referrals, that it gets sent to the next person. The
Mm.
work that we do for a simple appointment is 10 times more than I think most people that don't have needs or considerations for short to long-term concerns.
It took 3 years to get my immunization record transferred.
Yeah.
Mm.
Don't even get me started on that kind of stuff. But the give up, I think what most people look at, and I'd love to do a podcast on stuff like this, the give up factor for I think what people normally go through, and the we're not allowed to give up.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize the difference when people go, you do too much. What's too much? Or why
Mm.
are you doing this? Because it's for my son or for myself. It doesn't matter. But I know it just, you have to go above and beyond, but that's now our normal, not our exception.
If you can go back and tell yourself one thing, what would you tell yourself?
Oh my gosh. Don't take this the wrong way. When Graham was young, I didn't think he'd be a bag checker at Walmart. And I don't mean to be disparaging by anyone that works hard in their life. I didn't think Graham would be a citizen, is what I'm trying to say. I don't mean to be disrespectful for anyone. I didn't think anything like that was possible. The fact knowing right now that A is going to graduate college, but he will be a citizen, he will have a job, he will have
Yeah.
and help the world. I just he couldn't even say mom. I'd say, how was school today? And he'd go, school, school, school. Those are the things that his dad fought. Didn't want a communication device. I'm like, our kid can't talk, but he will, which he did learn to talk, but there's what about you?
'Can you answer how's school now?
He's doing really well in school.
Mm.
Oh,
Can you answer that question? How's school now?
oh yes, he can answer that question, how school is now. But he's still looking for direction and what to do next. If you ask him what is he going to do with it, he's still like, I don't know. Because again, you're asking him a valid question and he's giving you a valid answer. To hypothesize, that's not his forte to
Mm.
start saying, well, I could do this, 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 and start looking at that branch effect of direction as an example.
Some decisions that you wouldn't expect to make will be hard. One thing that I struggled with and have to revisit, due to being physically uncomfortable, is the gynecologist. It has nothing to do with the provider. I know that other patients go under for this, but I can't imagine doing that. I go through so many other exams, tests, procedures, and so forth that my neurotypical peers don't.
Oh no, absolutely. I love when they say they've actually said he couldn't have possibly have had 30 surgeries, and I started listing them off. They'll, stop, stop.
Oh.
What am I making this up? You
Yeah.
know, I feel like the 12 days of Christmas, seven sinus endoscopies. Yeah. He had
Yeah.
18 surgeries just to his head alone. Um,
What should people act on now?
the biggest thing people should act on is don't think your doctor, your lawyer, anybody, your teacher is waiting for you and is available tomorrow. If you're starting to see concerns, make the appointment. A neurologist might be 5 months out. They might be 2 months out. They might be a year out. You don't know. If you want the best, so does everybody else. Make the appointment. 2 months from now, if you don't feel you need to go see that doctor, you can cancel the appointment. But so many people have that wait and see. Oh, and the doctor said next month that there's still a problem. Make the appointment. You can
Yeah.
always cancel it. But trying to get in because it's a rush, you need a signature, you need answers, or you're medically suddenly unstable, you're causing too much chaos. You're just causing too much chaos.
Make sure that you make sure that your opinions, wishes, and concerns are expressed, respected, and cared for in the way you want them to be. A lady the other day overheard me communicating about the preferred time of my next appointment and commented on our way out she knows what she wants. I was initially confused by the comment, but understood it afterwards. I always bring this up in my conversations. One time before college, I couldn't get in with my primary pediatrician for an earache. I had to see one of the other doctors less familiar with my history. He was rude, said my ears looked fine, and she can't explain herself. He prescribed me an antibiotic, then finally looked at my chart and saw that I had TMJ. He recommended that I go see my dentist, and yes, it ended up being a TMJ flare.
No, it's really important. And also, that woman gave you a huge compliment because one thing I've learned with my age, everybody knows what they don't want. Most people don't know what they want. They're easy to tell you what I don't want. I don't want my crust on my bread. I don't want, but instead of saying I want it done this way, that's very difficult for most people. So it's cool that you know what you want, and that'll continue to change as your wants and needs change on it. Some for us, sometimes on a minute by minute basis.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle, for sharing this very important reality of your journey. You're an awesome advocate for him and all of us that find your work pioneering.
You're most welcome. But as with you, I think it's great. I wouldn't call it raw, but to It's not about that we're talking about ourselves. We're talking about an example of what could happen for those ahas to happen for somebody else. Oh, I didn't realize my daughter, even though they have a communication device, they can go to college. Oh, now I've got new goals, and that's what comes out of this too.
Mm, mm.
My signature is a K.
And that's all that matters, because I'm sure most people, that's how they sign.
Please find us on every platform you see podcasts and videos. We will continue to bring our passion, knowledge, and unique perspectives to the next episode of Rock the World coming soon.
Yes, we will. And we also will have guests. So if you feel you need to help your world be rocked by coming on with us, let us know.
I have a Google form.
Okie doke. So look at our information